Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. A young man traveled halfway across the world chasing a dream. A woman saw in him a chance to make easy money. Their union was never built on love, only on lies. But when greed and humiliation took center stage, that dream turned into a deadly nightmare. Rajesh came to Canada like so many international students, filled with hope, ambition, and a burning desire to make something of himself. But dreams cost money, and staying in Canada required more than just hard work. It required permanent residency. When his student visa began to run out, Rajesh faced a grim choice: return to India defeated or find another way to stay. That's when he met Samantha. She wasn't looking for love. She was looking for a payday. And Rajesh was desperate enough to agree. For $25,000, Samantha married him. On paper, they were husband and wife. In reality, it was nothing but a scam. Fake photos, staged moments, carefully crafted lies for immigration officers. At first, the plan seemed to work. Rajesh was safe, and Samantha had cash in her pocket. But soon, Samantha's greed began to grow. She demanded more money, more gifts, more favors. And when Rajesh hesitated, she reminded him that one phone call could end it all. He'd be deported in shame. Then came the ultimate betrayal. Samantha flaunted her new lover in front of him. She laughed at Rajesh, mocked his broken English, even joked to friends about her fake husband, who was nothing but a walking wallet. Rajesh's humiliation turned into obsession. The walls were closing in. The life he dreamed was crumbling. And on one winter night in Toronto, he reached his breaking point. By the next morning, Samantha will be found dead in her apartment. But the story of how she died, and the twisted trail that led police straight to Rajesh, is far darker than anyone could have imagined. Samantha was supposed to be Rajesh's lifeline, the one person who could secure his future in Canada. Instead, she became his greatest humiliation, and now she was dead. But how did investigators connect the dots from a staged marriage to a brutal killing? It was Samantha's neighbor who first raised the alarm. She hadn't seen her for days. No lights, no movement, and the faint smell of something strange seeping into the hallway. When police entered the apartment, the scene was shocking. Samantha's body lay crumpled near the living room, signs of a violent struggle all around. Furniture overturned, broken glass, blood. This wasn't a burglary. It wasn't a random attack. It was personal. At first, investigators looked at Samantha's boyfriend, the man she had flaunted so openly, but his alibi was airtight. Then came whispers about her other life. Friends told detectives about the secret arrangement with Rajesh, the so-called fake marriage for immigration papers. Some even recalled Samantha joking about how much she could milk him for before calling the police on him. Suddenly, Rajesh wasn't just a husband on paper. He was suspect number one. Detectives began piecing the puzzle together. Phone records showed heated arguments between Samantha and Rajesh in the weeks leading up to her death. Bank transfers revealed Rajesh had sent her thousands, more than he could afford, until the money suddenly stopped. Neighbors recalled seeing a man matching Rajesh's description entering Samantha's building the night before she was found dead. And then came the most damning piece of evidence: surveillance footage. At 11:47 p.m., a grainy security camera captured Rajesh walking into Samantha's building. He wasn't carrying anything when he entered. But nearly 2 hours later, the same camera caught him leaving. His hood pulled low, his pace hurried, and his clothes appearing stained. Detectives had the motive, the evidence, and the timeline. But what they didn't yet know was just how deep Rajesh's lies went, or how far he was willing to go to protect them. In Part 3, the interrogation begins, and the truth Rajesh finally reveals is darker than anyone expected. Rajesh walked into the interrogation room calm, even polite. He insisted he had nothing to do with Samantha's death. He said he was at his apartment, studying for exams, and hadn't seen her in weeks. But detectives were ready. They slid a stack of phone records across the table. Call after call between him and Samantha, some just hours before she died. His calm smile faded. Then came the surveillance photo, a blurry but unmistakable image of him entering Samantha's building the night she was killed. Rajesh shifted in his chair, his hands fidgeting. The lies weren't holding. Detectives pushed harder. They told Rajesh about the bank transfers, the money Samantha demanded, the payments he made until he couldn't anymore. Why did the money stop Rajesh? One detective pressed. Why did she suddenly become a threat? Rajesh's voice cracked for the first time. She was going to ruin me, he muttered. She said she'd call immigration. She laughed at me. He stopped, burying his face in his hands. But the room was silent. The detectives waited. They knew they were close. Finally, Rajesh lifted his head. His eyes were red, his voice trembling. I didn't mean for it to go that far, he whispered. I just wanted her to stop mocking me, to stop controlling me. The detectives leaned in. Rajesh, what did you do? He swallowed hard, his face pale. I just wanted to scare her. But then she wouldn't stop screaming. And He cut himself off. Rajesh had admitted more than he realized. But what investigators uncovered next would reveal an even darker side of the young student. Secrets that went far beyond Samantha's murder. On the surface, Rajesh lived like any other student. Classes, part-time jobs, late-night study sessions. But investigators soon discovered that wasn't the whole truth. Rajesh had been pursuing other women. Some fellow international students, others older Canadian women he met online. He used charm and sympathy to manipulate them, often playing the role of the lonely immigrant just trying to survive. In return, several of them provided him with money, gifts, even temporary housing. To the outside world, Rajesh was hardworking. In reality, he was exploiting relationships like stepping stones, each one way to fund his dream of staying in Canada. But even that wasn't enough. Detectives uncovered massive gambling debts, money Rajesh owed to underground betting groups. His part-time jobs and allowances couldn't cover the losses, so he turned to Samantha for more money. When she refused, he panicked. Without her, not only was his residency at risk, he also faced violent threats from the people he owed. Rajesh wasn't just desperate. He was trapped. The prosecution later argued that Samantha's murder wasn't an accident in a fit of rage. It was calculated. Rajesh needed her gone before she exposed the scam and before she cut him off on the money he depended on. But there was one more twist investigators hadn't expected. As detectives scoured Rajesh's digital footprint, they found messages on an encrypted app, hidden conversations with a mysterious contact in India. The chats weren't about love or friendship. They were about life insurance policies. Months before Samantha's death, Rajesh had been inquiring about taking out a life insurance plan in her name. Policies that would pay out if she suddenly died. The so-called desperate student wasn't just running from humiliation. He was chasing money. The scam marriage, the secret affairs, the debts. They were all just pieces of a larger puzzle. Now investigators had proof that greed was at the center of everything. But what they didn't know was that Rajesh wasn't finished lying. The Crown painted Rajesh as a manipulator, a man who saw Samantha not as a wife, not even as a friend, but as a tool. They presented the marriage scam as motive. They detailed the gambling debts and his desperation. They revealed his messages about life insurance policies, suggesting Samantha's death may have been planned months in advance. Photos of the crime scene flashed on courtroom screens. Blood, overturned furniture, the brutality of the attack. This wasn't self-defense, the prosecutor declared. This was revenge, calculated and cruel. Rajesh's lawyer told a very different story. They argued that Rajesh was a true victim, trapped in a toxic arrangement with a manipulative woman who extorted him and threatened his entire future. They played recordings of Samantha mocking him in texts and voicemails. They highlighted her affair, her cruel taunts, and her threats to call immigration. The defense claimed Rajesh never planned murder. They said it was a moment of weakness, an act of passion after months of humiliation. This was not a cold-blooded killer, the defense insisted. This was a young man pushed beyond his breaking point. But the trial's most dramatic moment came when a surprise witness was called. One of the Canadian women Rajesh had secretly been involved with. She testified that Rajesh had once told her, "If Samantha disappears, my problems disappear." The courtroom gasped. Rajesh's face turned pale. His lawyer scrambled to discredit her testimony, but the damage was done. Outside the courtroom, the case became a sensation. Headlines screamed about the student killer, the sham marriage murder, and the Canadian immigration scam gone deadly. Some saw Rajesh as a cold manipulator who used women for money. Others pitted him as a desperate immigrant, crushed under the weight of greed and betrayal. But inside the courtroom, only one thing mattered: the verdict. After weeks of testimony, the jury prepared to deliver their decision. Would Rajesh be seen as a cold-blooded murderer, or as a broken young man who snapped under pressure? The trial of Rajesh, the Indian student accused of killing his sham wife Samantha, had gripped two nations. For weeks, the jury listened to stories of love turned scam, of greed, humiliation, and violent revenge. Now, the time had come to decide his fate. The courtroom was silent as the jury filed back in. Rajesh sat motionless, his hands clenched, eyes fixed on the floor. Across the aisle, Samantha's family held each other, trembling, bracing for the words that would define the rest of their lives. The foreman stood. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder." Gasps filled the room. Samantha's mother broke down in tears. Rajesh closed his eyes, his body sinking into the chair as if the weight of the world had finally crushed him. He would serve life in prison, with no chance of parole for at least 15 years. For Samantha's family, justice had been delivered, but no sentence could erase the brutal way she was taken. Her mother later told reporters, "She was not perfect, but she didn't deserve to die like that." Back in India, Rajesh's family faced their own humiliation. The son they had sacrificed everything for, their pride, their hope for a better life abroad, was now a convicted killer. They wept not only for his lost future, but for the shame now attached to their name. The community was divided. Some said Rajesh was a victim of a broken immigration system that exploited desperate students. Others said he was proof of how greed, lies, and manipulation can destroy lives. In the end, there were no winners. Samantha lost her life in a storm of violence. Rajesh lost his freedom, his future, and the dream that brought him to Canada. Two families, separated by oceans, were united only in grief. What began as a simple marriage of convenience unraveled into a deadly spiral of greed, betrayal, and revenge. And it leaves us asking, how far can desperation push someone before they cross the line from victim to killer? What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.